In Jujutsu Kaisen Chapter 263, Yuta fails, Yuji becomes Sukuna's greatest fear, and Jujutsu High reveals its trump card. The miniature barrier that housed Sukuna and Yuta suddenly broke apart. Shards flew all throughout the area. Eventually, a figure began to emerge from the dust, and based on his lack of shoes, this was obviously Sukuna. The damaged sorcerer was baffled by Yuta's use of Hollow Purple. Despite its incredible power, Yuta still wasn't totally used to using it. The King of Curses began to smile. Even Yuta's barrier was destroyed by the technique. So yet again, Sukuna uses the ultimate counter to Gojo's strongest attacks, the secret curse technique of off-screen moments. Granted, I personally really hate off-screen moments in fights. For me, it's like watching the WWE as a kid and being too broke for the pay-per-view events. But I really wonder why this tends to happen at what I consider to be some of the coolest moments possible. But based on Sukuna's current state, it seems like he withstood the attack. Somehow. Yuji, Yuta, and Todo left from the dust as well. Todo called out to Yuta. He told the sorcerer not to worry about them getting hurt. The moment his technique manages to recover, he wanted Yuta to fire off as many Hollow Purples as he possibly could, while Todo would keep them safe with his Boogie Woogie. With the use of domain expansion, Sukuna has re-entered a state in which using his curse technique is incredibly difficult. But just then, Yuta's new body collapsed. The curse technique he copied from Kenjaku had burnt out thanks to the same thing. This man did not even last the full 5 minutes because the use of Kenjaku's technique had concluded. Because Rika wasn't haunting this body, copy was no longer his technique. Now, Limitless had been burnt out. Yuta didn't expect this sort of thing at all. He wondered if there was some sort of secret behind Kenjaku using his technique right after a domain expansion. He didn't inherit any such information when he copied it. He decided that he would at least maintain the barrier for his friends. Sukuna prepared a cursed fist as Todo took stock of their situation. He could tell that Sukuna was more than deserving of the moniker King of Curses. Even now, the monster was unrelenting. While Todo was distracted by Yuta's circumstances, Sukuna sought to capitalize on the opportunity. He struck Todo with a Black Flash punch. This broke a portion of his Viper Slap instrument. Immediately afterwards, Yuji prepared to take advantage of an opening too. The king anticipated the attack, but Todo used Boogie Woogie. Yuji appeared within striking range of Sukuna's exposed back. Todo coughed up blood. Even with a damaged instrument, Todo refused to step aside. Yuji struck Sukuna repeatedly. The king realized that Yuta's curse energy was still active, and was keeping shards of the miniature barrier floating around. These shards created a fantastic environment for Boogie Woogie to operate within. Todo slammed the instrument on his own head. Yuji's location shifted several times around Sukuna. Todo bit the tool. Just then, Yuji placed an open palm hand on Sukuna's torso. Yuji was trying to wake Megumi up. He would do this as many times as it would take to get through. Sukuna felt the power of Yuji's dismantle begin to flood his system. The king realized that Yuji was selectively choosing the target of his dismantle. He was doing this repeatedly and aiming it right at the barrier between the souls of Sukuna and Megumi. It was clear to him that Yuji had established a binding vow that would make his strikes more effectively remove Sukuna's soul from the body. Sukuna knew that he could not afford to continue being hit like this. He threw up his own fingers. Then he crushed them in his hand. Losing his body would mean certain defeat. He then reconsumed the fingers. Sukuna jumped onto an elevated beam. Yuji used his version of dismantle on the wall next to him. Sukuna's structure fell apart. Yuji rushed in for another hit, but Sukuna was one step ahead of him and showed up behind the young sorcerer. With a heavy punch, he forced Yuji into a wall, but Yuji's determination didn't change at all. At this point, all Sukuna needed to do was avoid being hit by any of Yuji's blows. Todo feared that his spare Viper Slap would not be recognized as his left hand and wouldn't work, so he would be sure to make use of the damaged instrument one final time. He did so with all his might. Domain shards were scattered all around the fighters. Sukuna and Yuji both noticed that there was not a swap. Cracks started to form on Todo's device. Sukuna's eyes widened in response to the heavenly presence above him. With his oversized eye, he looked at her in disbelief. Meanwhile, Angel prepared to strike. Thanks to his binding vow, the range of Boogie Woogie had been extended. In the past, Yuta told Angel that their role ends when he dispels Gojo's seal. She wondered what would happen to Megami in that case. Yuta apologized, but let her know that they would be depending on her in the end. There was no issue with her keeping away from the fight. Even if his domain collapses, there would be no need for her to actually engage. He just wanted her to use Jacob's ladder as a conclusive blow. This would be an all-or-nothing attempt at splitting Sukuna's soul from Megami's. The plan was to make the most out of Kapi's strongpoint. Angel wondered what he was talking about. Yuta explained that when facing Kapi, people don't usually consider the original user of the Kapi technique. Instead, their thoughts usually move towards how many techniques Yuta has in stock. The possibility of the original user showing up with the same technique was totally unexpected. Those who know how Kapi works tend to falsely believe that Yuta is taking the technique instead of duplicating it. The true power of Kapi was the possibility of having two of the same cards at their disposal. Sukuna knew this was bad. Angel delivered Jacob's ladder at full power. The attack was swift and massive. It's described as their trump card. But come on, we've seen this cycle of Shinjuku chapters too many times to not know that things are not over yet. Sukuna Kaisen continues. The fact that Gege has doubled down on this being the final arc is still very strange to me. But estimates like that tend to change with time, so we'll see how things go. Sukuna was already struck by a full-power Jacob's ladder within Yuta's domain. The only reason they didn't win the fight then and there was because of Megami's unwillingness to live. He's been mentioned a bit more in this chapter, so maybe this will give us a chance to see him a bit more as well. I don't imagine we'll see much progress in the separation of souls if we don't properly address the other side of this fight. This would also continue the trend of modern shonen conclusions that involve fighting the final villain internally and externally. I just hope that Sukuna's solution to this attack doesn't involve the words binding vow. We have seen more than enough of those things now. That being said, does anyone else remember that Hakari is supposed to be fighting somewhere? Sukuna still has a loyal servant at his disposal, but please let us know what your predictions might be. As always, I'm Slice of Otaku. Thank you all so much for watching and have an awesome day. I love you.